Yo, people, come with us for the first holiday of 2025. Today we're going to Iceland. We normally go somewhere nice and hot, but we thought we are going to switch it up and go somewhere cold instead. Minus 20 degrees and snow and ice. So we checked our bags in, got into departures, had a look around, grabbed some food. We were flying at 2:30 today, so it was perfect time for lunch. Grabbed a burger from the restaurant in Bristol Airport and then found our gate to board. The plane was absolutely rammed today. There was like 2 seats left. Took off. Flying conditions were lovely. um, and then I did a bit of work on the plane. Finished a few tracks up that needed touching up, and finished editing my DJ set that I did in the Brecon Beacons a few weeks ago. We landed in Iceland. Lucky enough, we got an air bridge off the plane, so we didn't actually feel the coldness until we got out of the airport. Went and picked our bags up, and then we hired a car for the 4 days. So we went and picked the car up from the rental. It was very cold, and we checked in at the hotel, had a look around, and that was day one of traveling to Iceland. Day two of Iceland. Today we were doing snowmobiling and the Golden Circle. It's mad here because the sunrise isn't even till 11 o'clock, so it's pitch black until like 10:30, and then you manage to catch the sunrise, which is unreal. So first stop was one of the Golden Circle locations. There's loads of different locations in the Golden Circle, and it was this waterfall that had frozen over. It looked absolutely stunning. They'd had loads of snow just before we come out, so everything was just white. We stopped at this little point with a lush view on the way to the Giza hot springs. This was unreal. I don't know how it works, but there's like this massive like water spout that just shoots out the ground every like 10 minutes, and it turns into like ice powder. There was loads of different small ones that were like boiling over, but there was one main one. Then we went and had a look at Garvos Waterfall. This was actually where we were getting picked up for snowmobiling, so it was rude not to check it out. Then we did snowmobiling. This was the highlight of the holiday. Going up on a glacier, um, going flat out on a snowmobile. We managed to catch a glimpse of the Northern Lights. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the camera. This was class. The views we had on the way back. The journey on the way there and back was mad as well. Like you seen on that lorry, we had to go in that for an hour up the mountain through like 4 foot deep snow and back down again. We managed to catch this class sunset. On the way back as well, just before we left where the snowmobiles were. And then we got back to the hotel and grabbed some food in the restaurant. And that was day two of Iceland. Yes, day three of Iceland. Today we're doing the South Coast waterfalls and Sky Lagoon. We grabbed some breakfast from the restaurant, which was banging, and we headed up into the mountains. The first stop was this waterfall. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name, but it was the second biggest waterfall in Iceland, I believe. It was pretty cool, to be fair. A lot of it had frozen over, but it was still cool to walk around and have a look. In this location, there was a cool little waterfall, like in a cave type thing. You'll see now what I mean. Normally you can walk into it, but the water was too deep and I wasn't getting wet feet. So that was the first one. This was the second location of the waterfalls on the south coast. This was actually on a frozen river and everyone was falling over. It was so funny. Look at that, flat to the floor. This was actually on a frozen river. So this is the first biggest waterfall in Iceland. And when you got up close, the video doesn't do justice on how big it is. And then I tried a bit of Icelandic water, and it tasted so clean. It was cold, but it tasted so clean. Then we headed off to the Sky Lagoon. This was like a geothermal bath, so it's naturally heated up. Um, and this was just outside the capital. Such a beautiful place. The water was like, I think they said it was like 40 Fahrenheit or something like that. And yeah, it was stunning. Unfortunately, it was too cloudy to see any of the northern lights because I would have topped it off. But it was still absolutely amazing. It was nice to chill after a busy day traveling around the south coast. One of the best things we did was actually hiring a car for this holiday because I don't think we would have seen half the stuff we actually did when we hired a car. There was this cool little waterfall in the Sky Lagoon. I thought it was a cold waterfall, but when I actually went under it, it was nice and warm. um, People were saying like, why didn't we do the Blue Lagoon over the Sky Lagoon? And I did a little bit of research before we went out, and apparently the Blue Lagoon is just overcrowded, and that the Sky Lagoon is a lot more like less crowded and more chilled. Um, would I believe that? Probably not. To be fair, it was quite busy. Um, but it was still nice. I think from what I'd like pictures I'd seen from the Blue Lagoon compared to Sky Lagoon looked quieter in general. And you had a seven step ritual that we did, but obviously we didn't take cameras through that. There was also a bar in the Sky Lagoon as well, which was quite cool. So you could just get drinks without even getting out of the water. Another perk with the Sky Lagoon over the Blue Lagoon is you could stay in there for as long as you wanted. So I think we were in there for like 2 hours. But then our time was up and we went out straight for some food and we went to a Hard Rock Cafe, the global famous one. Um, and it was nice. It was expensive. It was like £120 for two people. For we literally had a starter each and a main each. But yeah, that was Hard Rock. We went and look around the city then that night, and we went for a drink in the English pub on the main street, and we headed back to the hotel. And that was the end of day 3 in Iceland. Day 4 of Iceland. This was our last day, and we had an evening flight, so we had all day to have a drive around the rest of the island that we hadn't been to. So we had a look in the city first. Went to this famous church that was massive, and then we jumped in the lift to a massive shopping centre just outside the city. And everything was so expensive. We went into a JD Sports, or like the equivalent to a JD Sports, and a pair of like Nike Tech joggers were like £120, and they're like what, 80 quid in the UK, 90 quid. Then we went and got a coffee. This coffee was banging, by the way. Shout out to them. And then we went up into the volcanoes, had a look at the volcano caves, and this in front of you is what you can see is lava from the most recent volcano back in November. And it went onto the roads. They're doing loads of work to put like new roads in and stuff like that. And then I had a look at Volcano Sicla. This was like I think it was one of the big volcanoes that erupted a few years ago, and there was still like lava flowing down the mountain. Um, but yeah, this was sick as well. We didn't have a chance to do too much on day 4 because obviously we had to get to the airport for like 5 o'clock. So we just had a little look around the volcanoes and then headed to the airport to travel home. It was the end of day 4 and also the evening of traveling home as well. So I thought I'd take you on the travel journey back to the UK. We dropped our car off at the rental place. They checked all over, absolutely fine, of course, and we headed into the terminal of the airport. We were actually quite early for the departure time, so I think we were like 3 hours early. So we chilled for a bit in check-in, and then when I got some food, and there's only one place open in the whole of the arrivals, and then we went down to our gate, which was a 15-minute walk, and jumped on the plane, um, and then they started de-icing the plane, and we took off into the sky. A nice view of the city before we left, and then did a bit of work on the plane, and that was Cardiff you just seen. And then we landed back in Bristol, um, which was actually cold as well, but we were used to it by this point, so it didn't really matter. Um, and then got a bus to the arrivals. Obviously, we got a bus because it's Bristol, and they don't know what air bridges are. We went straight through border control, picked our bags up, and headed to the car park. And that was Iceland 2025, the first holiday vlog I've actually ever done. And it's going to be the first of many holiday vlogs that I do. I'm going back out to Kavos this year to do a couple guest sets. I'm going to be going out to Maga to see some mates that I worked with a few years ago when I did 2 months out there. So there's going to be so much more holiday content on the way. I love doing this. I'm going to try and do vlogs where I actually speak to the camera. Iceland was quite hard because it was so windy everywhere. Even with a wind muff on top of my microphone, you could still hear the wind blasting through it. So it just wasn't going to work, and this was the only way I could make it as good as possible. So yeah, this is the end of Iceland 2025. Thank you all for watching. If you've got this far into the video, make sure you subscribe, like, drop a comment, and turn the notifications on so when I next post a vlog, you'll get notified as soon as it's up.